Today we're having a nice discussion about optimism here in beautiful San Antonio at the Frost Bank with two people who know a lot about optimism and know about it when it relates to financial health.
I manage our research and strategy division here at Frost Bank.
I'm a positive psychology researcher, and I've studied optimism and its connection to success for about a decade now.
And so hopefully we have a conversation that's fun and enlightening and feels relevant to right now. Well, it might be worth at this moment just defining optimism, maybe, just so everybody knows what we're actually talking about. Michelle, how do you define it?
Optimism is the expectation of good things to happen and the belief that our behavior matters, especially in the face of challenges. What often happens when we start talking about optimism is people misunderstand. They think Pollyanna, rose-colored glasses. When we look at optimism, and as we defined it in this study, we look at it from a rational perspective. Rational optimism allows you to take a realistic assessment of the present moment, understand what's going on in your finances or with the markets or with your children in school to really know what's happening in the present moment. But in the midst of that, understanding that if you apply your behavior, if you take steps and take action, you can change circumstances.
Well, is it hard to measure optimism? How do you actually measure that?
Luckily, there were some researchers that we can be grateful towards because they've already done some of the heavy lifting in that department. So we used scientifically validated assessments. There was a team of researchers from Carnegie Mellon and the University of Miami that developed a scale for optimism. And then we also used a definition of financial health or well-being from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
How do you actually measure that, or how do you define what it means to be financially healthy? Other than rich, obviously.
Sure. Well, the definition of financial health goes way beyond the amount of wealth or income that we have, and that's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has a wonderful definition. They look at factors, the first one being, do you have control over your finances? So, is your debt manageable? Can you pay bills on time? Can you make ends meet every month? The second thing that they look at is, are you setting goals? Are you making progress towards those goals? The third one being, do you have a financial cushion? Which may mean, I have some money reserved in a savings account, or it could be, do I have a network of family or friends that could help me out? And their last part of their definition was just being able to make choices to enjoy one's life. So, I can go out to a meal, I can take a small vacation with my family, but it's a much broader definition of financial well-being than just how much money you have in the bank.
I don't think I would traditionally associate a bank with something that would make me feel more optimistic. I don't know what that says about me, but it's kind of an interesting and counterintuitive thought.
When we did some research, I'm going to tell you, if you go to Google and you search how to budget, you're going to get back over 1 million search results, or how to save money, over 2 million search results. There is a plethora of webcasts and blogs and articles out there about how to manage your money. And a lot of that material comes from other banks. A lot of other banks have financial tools. But there seems to be that mismatch that all this information is there and banks are supplying this stuff, but at the same time, the average financial health score for Americans is at 54. So there's something happening here that's not working out. And so that's where we felt like we needed to approach this. It's not so much just about the tools, but again, it's your mindset and your behavior, and that's what matters. And I know it's different coming from a bank, but Frost is different from other financial institutions.
That's for me what really attracted me to want to work on this project in partnership with Frost. It was a visit to one of the branches, and you could just feel how palpable it was, this love and this care for their clients and customers. It's just, it's no surprise when you understand the culture here, but it was really neat to see it in person, in action.
Now, why was Frost so interested in this in particular? I mean, why optimism?
I think Frost is an optimistic bank. We just celebrated last year our 150th anniversary. And as Michelle mentioned, when you think about the definition of optimism, it's your determination in the face of adversity. And so being in business for 150 years, of course, you're going to go through the ups and downs. And as we really studied what optimism meant, we knew that we were an optimistic bank and the world needed a little bit of a dose of what Frost had to offer. So that's why optimism is so important to us. There's so much research out there that shows how optimism can improve your emotional and your physical health. And we wanted to take that a step further and say, well, what does it do to your financial health? I think anecdotally we knew, doing business with our customers over all these years, that there was a connection, but we wanted to formalize it.
You said that you had this suspicion that these things were linked, financial health and optimism. What did you guys find?
Well, our research found that, one, financial pressures affect almost all Americans. But having more optimism leads to more financial health. And we thought the findings were really significant. Optimists are 7 times more likely to experience more financial health than pessimists, and that's a big number.
Yeah.
Americans average 148 days of financial stress a year. That's a lot. I mean, 148 days. About 2/3 of Americans say that they feel like money just controls their lives, that they're impacted by that every day. And so we knew that we needed to do something. And finding this link, I think, makes a big difference.
So did you find that rich people were more optimistic?
That's great.
I mean,
That's
right?
good.
Like, hey, have some money in reserve, and hey, have a financial planner. Is there a chicken and the egg question in there somewhere?
That's a fantastic question. What we found is that there were optimists and pessimists at all ends of the spectrum, and that it wasn't about necessarily having high levels of wealth or income. What we did was we controlled for a lot of different things, wealth, income, behavior, skills, and a handful of other things to level the playing field. And what we found is that optimists, if they were to increase their optimism by 1 point, we found a 0.1 increase in their levels of well-being. Or if a pessimist were to do the same thing, we saw an increase as well. So it basically told us that no matter where you start, you have the potential to increase, and when you do, it's positively connected to an increase in the other outcome.
How heartening.
Yeah.
It is.
Are there specific things that people can do that can actually take you from whatever you are to an optimist?
We found that there were 3 key things that the optimists did that improved both their financial health and at the same time decreased their stress. And so one was taking the taboo out of money. And what we mean by that is we found that optimists were more comfortable talking about money. They were more interested in learning about money. They were actually more likely to seek and follow advice from a financial expert. But knowing how to manage their money was really the number one reason they said they were so optimistic about their finances. The second one was about seeking progress and not perfection. We found that 9 in 10 optimists said that they had a financial plan for the future. But what was interesting is like 2/3 of them said, it was just a rough financial plan. What they saw is that setting goals and feeling like they were making progress towards those goals is really what mattered to them. And so the third one was expecting the unexpected.
Yeah, a lot of people were talking about how when they experienced challenges, they didn't say, okay, I definitely knew this particular thing was going to happen. They just realized that challenges can arise. And so they put into practice some measures that would help them, maybe an emergency fund or something else that would allow them to move past that challenge in a more prepared way. So what that tells me is that if we were to put into practice some of the habits that we were able to identify in personal finance, then we could train our brain to be more optimistic and then reap the benefits. It's sort of a cycle that keeps fulfilling itself.
So Frost has the 30-day challenge, right? That's available for people. Tell us about what that is and what it does and what you found.
Well, at the beginning, before we did this research, we knew we wanted to inspire more acts of optimism. So we built a 30-day challenge where you can go to our website, optforoptimism.com, and sign up for the challenge, and little kind of special tidbits would be sent to you once a day to encourage you to do something small, something optimistic to help change your behavior at the end of 30 days. And there were activities in there like leave a note for somebody of something that you're grateful for that they did.
Oh, that's nice.
Or take a blanket to the fire station to be able to give to those in need. So a lot of different behaviors over 30 days. And we did a survey at the end of kind of a big push that we had for the 30-day challenge, and we really found that all 10,000 people that participated in this initial challenge said, yeah, it made me a lot more optimistic, and I'd like to keep these practices in place.
So Michelle, when you hear that, does your mind go, maybe people really are hungry for this?
Yeah.
Have you found that to be the case, or is there evidence that you've come across that this is something really urgent on a level maybe you didn't even realize?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. We're experiencing the highest levels of stress, depression, anxiety that we've ever seen, even among our youngest. And it's a time when people are uncertain and want to hold on to something that provides comfort and a hopeful message. So what I feel is that the more that we can all understand that there's a research-backed case for fueling our levels of optimism and how that can have a positive ripple effect on our entire lives, the more that we might take those first and second and third steps. The other thing is, understanding this research, sometimes we see, hey, I'm already doing half of these things already. You know, this is amazing. I can understand from a research perspective why I'm already successful in some domains of my life. And that can spur us to want to make even more positive change.
Frost has earned the right to talk about this because we are such an optimistic bank and we're made up of optimistic people. And it's, to me, just something natural that comes out of who we are and us wanting to make people's lives better every day. And I think when we find out great information that can help people be more successful, we want to share that with everybody. And it's good for Frost too, because the more our customers are successful, the more we are successful too. So it's a win-win situation.
Well, thank you all again for being here. Thanks to our experts. You guys
Thank
have a
you.
wonderful
Thank you.
rest of your day, and go be optimistic.